China's temples, by contrast, tend to be more secluded. They're usually built on mountains where the scenery is beautiful and there is no disturbance. Far more secluded than most is a temple built more than 1,500 years ago. It hangs on a cliff, suspended in the air. It's known as the Hanging Temple. The Hanging Temple sits on Mount Hung in Hunyang County, Shanxi Province. It looks like a delicate work of art as it clings halfway up the steep cliff face. Its backdrop, a vast expanse of yellow rock, is tilted slightly forward, giving it the impression that it will fall at any moment. The red wooden columns that support the temple's main body and its walkways look no stronger than chopsticks. How can these columns bear such a great weight, and for so many centuries?
整体这个结构啊，它是分3个部分组成。第一部分它是这个寺院，这山门进去是个寺院。第二部分和第三部分，它是2个3层楼阁，中间用一个栈道连起来。它是第一部分是用这个靠这个岩石上建起来，而后2部分它全部是悬空的。
The temple is hanging 58 meters above the ground. To visit it is to feel you are standing on top of a 20-story building likely to be carried away at any moment on the wind. Amazingly, the temple was built in 491 AD, which means despite its apparent vulnerability, it has been clinging to the steep cliff for over 1,500 years. More surprisingly still, the temple has survived several earthquakes as recorded in the annals of Hunyang County. More recently, 2 earthquakes measuring over 6 on the Richter scale have been recorded in the area in the past 4 decades. In one, 1/3 of the houses in the county were destroyed. Yet the temple continued to cling to the rock, impervious. Chinese temples in their layout tend to be square and to expand outwards from a horizontal axis. The Hanging Temple transplants this design into a 3-dimensional space. It has all the buildings common to regular temples: a main gate, bell and drum towers, main halls and side halls. The various halls, connected by walkways, form a well-arranged design. The Hanging Temple also incorporates many grottos. In fact, the overall structure is half construction, half excavation. Evidently, the original architects recognized the necessity of drilling into the cliff to create more space. The temple, consisting of 41 halls and their connecting walkways, has an estimated weight of at least 10 tons. This begs the question, how was it originally fixed to the cliff? Notre Dame is a world-renowned cathedral. It's a solid stone structure which Victor Hugo compared to a great stone symphony. By contrast, Chinese temples are built of wood, and in this the Hanging Temple is typical. Had Victor Hugo ever visited it, he might have compared it to a light dance of wood. It's believed that the wood used in building the Hanging Temple was first processed at the foot of the mountain. The wood used was hemlock, which is found in abundant quantities locally. Being hard, it's suitable for houses, carts, and ships. Before processing, the hemlock wood would have been soaked in tung oil to make it resistant to termites and erosion. The wood was pieced together using a series of mortise and tenon joints. The ends of the pieces would have been fashioned either to protrude or hollowed out so that they could fit each other. Mortise and tenon joints create a structure of remarkable stability. They allow slight internal movements which cancels out the impact of major external forces, such as earthquakes. When the force abates and eventually disappears, they are restored to their original shape and position. Thus, the whole structure is protected from any major damage. So the mortise and tenon joints are the secret of the Hanging Temple's survival of earthquakes in the past. After processing, the wood would have been carried up the cliff for several kilometers along a winding path. Once the wood had arrived in the proper place, it would have been conveyed, piece by piece, together with a craftsman, by rope to the middle of the cliff face. This cross beam extends for 1 meter into the air. The Hanging Temple has 27 cross beams with boards arranged across them. The cross beams, it seems, are the key building elements that hold the temple in the air. In most buildings, ground sills are driven vertically into the ground to provide stability and some resistance against earthquakes. In the Hanging Temple, the ground sills are driven horizontally into the mountainside. Thus, the cross beams find their support in the hard rock of the mountain. But just how solid and stable are these ground sills? A simulation can demonstrate. This is a mountain. The cross beams are driven into it with a part protruding. Then the model building is placed on top. A tempest. The crossbeams break and the model collapses. Clearly, these ground sills are not sufficiently strong enough. So what else could have been used to support the temple? The fact is, a small part of the yellow rock supports the temple structure. Moreover, the many grottos make the temple a half-constructed, half-excavated structure, which is given firm support by the mountain below the grottos. The rock, although it cannot be observed from below, combines with the crossbeams to form the horizontal ground sills and bear the weight of the hanging temple. The crossbeams connect the main body of the temple to the mountain to create a structural whole. So, despite its apparent vulnerability, the temple is leaning safely on the mountainside. The 1 meter of crossbeams outside the main body is actually only a small part of the temple. The main part of the crossbeams is hidden in the cliff. The meter of protruding crossbeams does support something: the walkways. The walkways, although in themselves don't weigh too much, they still have to bear the weight of many tourists. This is where the columns beneath play their role. The tops of the columns support the crossbeams, while their bases stand hard against the rock. Together, the columns and the crossbeams form a strong support system. The standing points of the columns are all carefully designed. Some of the columns shoulder the weight, and some adjust the height of the various halls. Interestingly, the columns beneath the walkways normally bear no weight. They begin to function only once the weight has passed a certain limit. So there is no need to worry that too many visitors might cause it to collapse.
这一部分啊，它是2个3层楼阁，这一块这一块，上面是用一个木栈道连接起来。这个木栈道啊，它是靠这个横梁而插到这个岩石里边。它的支撑作用啊，是一个靠它的背力而支撑的。我们看到这个立柱啊，它是一个辅助的作用，实际上呢，它能晃。
How the crossbeams were installed is an intriguing question. In the 1980s, archaeologists accidentally discovered 2 lines of square holes in the steep cliff on the south side of the valley. They follow a